The autumn rain painted soft patterns against the windows of Sullivan Technologies' headquarters. Owen Sullivan sat in the corner of the employee cafeteria, his usual spot during early morning hours when the building was mostly empty. He cherished these moments of solitude before the chaos of board meetings and conference calls consumed his day. His black coffee sat untouched on the table as he reviewed quarterly reports on his tablet. The glass doors opened, bringing with them the sound of hurried footsteps and hushed voices. Owen barely looked up, accustomed to early arrivals, but something made him glance toward the entrance. Natalie Chen walked in with her friend Grace, both women looking for a quiet place to talk before work officially began. They chose a table near the large indoor plant display, completely unaware that Owen sat just beyond the tall decorative ferns. The confession that shattered silence. Natalie's voice carried a weight that made Owen freeze mid-scroll. He had always noticed her during company meetings. She was brilliant with marketing analytics, turning complex data into compelling stories that drove sales. At 24, she possessed a maturity that impressed him, though he also noticed something else, a sadness that lingered in her dark eyes, even when she smiled during presentations. Grace leaned forward, concern etched across her features. "Nat, you have been different lately, more distant. Is everything okay with Ryan?" The pause that followed felt eternal. Owen knew he should announce his presence or leave, but something kept him rooted to his seat. Perhaps it was the tremor in Natalie's breathing, the sound of someone about to reveal a burden too heavy to carry alone. "Natalie, I need to tell someone or I will lose my mind." Natalie's words came out in a rush. "Ryan and we have been married for 14 months now. Everyone thinks we're this perfect couple. My mother keeps calling me blessed. But the truth is..." Owen's heart rate accelerated. He pressed himself against the wall, hidden by the foliage, silently willing himself to be invisible. "The truth is, we have never been intimate. Not once. I'm still a virgin, Grace." The sound of a chair scraping against the floor punctuated the confession. Grace's shock was palpable. "What do you mean? But you went to Hawaii for your honeymoon. The photos looked so romantic." Unveiling the arrangement. Natalie laughed, but it was hollow and brittle. "Photos can lie. We stayed in separate hotel rooms. Ryan barely spoke to me the entire week. He needed the pictures for social media, for his business partners, for his family. That was all." Owen felt anger building in his chest. He had met Ryan Mitchell twice at networking events. The man struck him as arrogant, more concerned with appearances than substance. But this revelation painted a picture far darker than simple vanity. "Why would he marry you then?" Grace asked, voicing the question that echoed in Owen's mind. "Because he needed someone young and presentable on his arm. His father was pressuring him to settle down, said it would help their real estate business look more family-oriented. And Natalie's voice cracked, I needed to save my mother." Owen closed his eyes, pieces of a puzzle he did not know existed suddenly falling into place. He remembered Natalie requesting a small salary advance 6 months ago, which he had approved without question. He recalled her taking calls outside the office, returning with tense shoulders and forced smiles. "Mom got sick 2 years ago. Cancer. The treatments drained everything. We were drowning in medical debt, about to lose our home. Ryan appeared like some kind of solution. His family offered to pay everything if I married him. It seemed like the only way." The price of sacrifice. Grace reached across the table. "Oh, Natalie, that is not a marriage. That is a transaction." "I know." The only defeat in those 2 words struck Owen like a physical blow. "But what choice did I have? Mom needed treatment. We needed a place to live. Ryan got his perfect wife for business dinners and charity galas. I got to save my family from financial ruin. Except now, I am trapped in this beautiful prison." "Does he treat you badly?" Grace asked carefully. "He ignores me. Sometimes I think that hurts more than if he were cruel.
He comes home late, barely acknowledges my presence. We eat dinner in silence when we eat together at all. At night, he locks himself in his office or goes out with his friends. I feel like furniture in my own home, expensive furniture that he shows off when convenient, then forgets about. Owen's hands clenched into fists. His coffee had gone cold, forgotten. This woman, who showed such brilliance and dedication in her work, was living a nightmare behind closed doors. The professional distance he maintained with all employees felt like cowardice. "Have you thought about leaving?" Grace asked. "Every single day." Natalie's voice dropped to barely a whisper. "But the agreement we signed, if I leave within the first 5 years, my family has to repay everything. We cannot afford that. I am stuck, Grace. And the worst part is, everyone thinks I have this fairy tale life. My mother calls me lucky. His parents praise me for being such a good wife. I smile and nod and die a little inside each time." The alarm on Owen's phone vibrated silently in his pocket, signaling his first meeting in 20 minutes. He needed to leave without being discovered, without revealing that he had witnessed this private moment of vulnerability. He stood slowly, carefully, making his exit through the side door that led to the executive elevators. But as he walked away, something fundamental shifted inside him. He couldn't unknow what he heard. He couldn't pretend that one of his most talented employees was suffering in silence. More than that, he couldn't ignore the protective instinct that surged through him, the desire to help this woman who had sacrificed everything for her family. Owen reached his office and closed the door, leaning against it as he processed everything. He thought of Natalie's smile during presentations, now understanding it as a mask hiding unbearable pain. He thought of Ryan Mitchell's smug face at business events, now seeing it as the face of someone who treated people as possessions. One thing became crystal clear as Owen stood in his corner office overlooking the city. He was going to help Natalie Chen, not as a man with romantic intentions, though he could admit to himself that he found her remarkable, not as someone who wanted gratitude or recognition, but as someone who had the power and resources to give another human being back their freedom. He just needed to figure out how to do it without crossing ethical lines, without making her situation worse, and without revealing that he knew her darkest secret. The challenge energized him in a way business deals never did. This was not about profit margins or market share. This was about helping someone reclaim their life. Owen picked up his phone and dialed an internal extension. "Victoria, can you come to my office? I need to advise you on something sensitive." His aunt, Victoria Sullivan, had been his moral compass since he took over the company. If anyone could help him navigate this delicate situation, it would be her. As he waited, Owen looked out at the city below, where somewhere in this building, Natalie Chen was probably composing herself, putting on her professional mask, preparing to face another day of pretending everything was fine. That was going to change. Owen would make sure of it.
Victoria Sullivan entered Owen's office with the quiet confidence of someone who had navigated corporate waters for 3 decades. At 62, she carried herself with grace, her silver hair pulled back in an elegant twist. She had helped Owen build Sullivan Technologies from a startup into a powerhouse, and more importantly, she had helped him stay grounded when success threatened to inflate his ego. "You look troubled," Victoria observed, settling into the leather chair across from his desk. "This is not your usual pre-meeting stress face. This is something personal." Owen spent the next 20 minutes explaining what he had overheard, careful to maintain the facts without embellishment. Victoria listened without interruption, her expression shifting from concern to sadness to quiet anger. When he finished, she sat back and studied him carefully. "You care about this young woman," she said simply. It was not a question. "I admire her work ethic," Owen replied, but even he heard the defensive tone in his voice. The ethical tightrope. Victoria raised an eyebrow. "Owen, I have known you since you were born. I watched you build this company with integrity as your foundation, so I will be direct. You are the CEO. She is your employee.
That power dynamic exists whether you acknowledge it or not. "I know that," Owen said, frustration creeping into his voice. "That is exactly why I called you. I cannot just ignore what I heard, but I also cannot overstep boundaries. She did not choose to confide in me. I accidentally invaded her privacy." "Good. At least you understand the complexity." Victoria leaned forward, her tone softening. "Here is what you need to understand, Owen. Right now, Natalie is trapped because she lacks financial independence. Her husband controls her through the debt agreement. If you truly want to help her, you need to give her the tools to help herself." Owen absorbed this, nodding slowly. "A promotion? Not just any promotion," Victoria cautioned. "It needs to be legitimate, deserved, and publicly defensible. Can you honestly say she has earned advancement based on her work performance?" "Absolutely." Owen pulled up files on his computer, turning the screen toward Victoria. "Look at these analytics reports from the last quarter. She increased our social media engagement by 47%. The campaign she designed for our new software launch exceeded projections by 30%. She is operating at a senior level while being paid for junior work." Victoria studied the data, nodding approvingly. "Then you have your answer. Promote her because she deserves it, not because you want to rescue her. Give her a salary that reflects her value to this company. The rest will be her choice to make." "What if she thinks I have ulterior motives?" Owen asked. "Then you maintain absolute professionalism. You do not mention her personal life. You do not offer anything beyond what you would offer any other high-performing employee. And Owen," Victoria's voice grew stern, "you do not expect gratitude, friendship, or anything else in return. This is about giving her options, not creating new obligations." Owen felt the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders, but also clarity. "I understand. Thank you, Victoria." 3 days later, Owen called Natalie to his office. He spent those days working with Victoria and the HR department to create a new position that was both necessary and perfectly suited to Natalie's skills. The Community Engagement Director role would oversee all corporate social responsibility initiatives, manage a small team, and report directly to the executive board. Natalie arrived at his office at precisely 3 o'clock, her professional demeanor in place despite the nervousness in her eyes. She wore a navy blazer and carried a leather portfolio, every inch the competent professional. But Owen could now see past the facade to the exhaustion underneath. "Please sit down, Natalie." He gestured to the leather chair across from his desk, deliberately keeping his tone warm but professional. "I want to discuss your future with Sullivan Technologies." She sat carefully, hands folded in her lap. "Of course, Mr. Sullivan. I have been reviewing performance metrics across all departments. Your work in marketing has been exceptional. The campaigns you have led have consistently outperformed expectations. You have a strategic mind and an ability to connect with audiences that is rare." Natalie's surprise was genuine. "Thank you, sir. I enjoy the work." The moment of truth. "We are creating a new department focused on community engagement and social impact initiatives. It's something I have wanted to implement for years, but we needed the right person to build it from the ground up." Owen slid the folder across the desk. "I would like that person to be you." Natalie opened the folder with trembling fingers. Her eyes scanned the job description, the responsibilities, the team structure. Then she reached the salary page and went completely still. Owen watched as her breathing changed, as tears threatened to spill over before she blinked them back furiously. The number on the page was 3.5 times her current salary. It was independence. It was freedom. It was a lifeline thrown to someone drowning. "I don't understand. This is a director-level position. I'm only 24. "Age is irrelevant when someone demonstrates capability," Owen replied. "You have consistently shown leadership qualities, strategic thinking, and dedication. This role requires someone who cares deeply about making a difference. I believe that person is you." Natalie looked up at him, and for the first time since that morning in the cafeteria, Owen saw something other than sadness in her eyes. He saw hope, fragile and tentative, but undeniably present. "The position comes with a signing bonus to help with relocation if needed, though that is entirely optional. You would have your own office, a discretionary budget, and full authority over the department's direction within our corporate values framework. Why me? Natalie asked, her voice barely.
3 months passed like a careful dance between two opposing forces. Natalie threw herself into her new role with an intensity that surprised even Owen. She built the community engagement department from nothing into a functioning, respected part of Sullivan Technologies. Her team of 3 grew to 5, then 7. The projects she launched brought positive media attention to the company and genuine impact to local communities. Owen watched from a professional distance, proud but careful. He attended her presentations, approved her budgets, and offered guidance when asked. But he never crossed the invisible line Victoria had helped him draw. Their interactions remained cordial, professional, respectful. He learned to read the subtle signs, though. The days when Natalie's smile did not reach her eyes. The mornings when she arrived earlier than anyone else, as if the office was a sanctuary. The times she stayed late, clearly reluctant to go home. Meanwhile, Natalie executed a plan she shared with no one. Every paycheck, she opened a new savings account at a bank Ryan knew nothing about. Every bonus, every bit of extra income went into that secret account. She researched tenant rights, divorce lawyers, and financial independence strategies during her lunch breaks. She documented everything. The separate bedrooms, Ryan's absences, his controlling behavior. She built her case quietly, methodically, the way she built marketing campaigns at work. The fracture widens. Ryan's initial dismissal of her promotion evolved into something darker. He began making comments at the dinner parties she was required to attend, subtle digs wrapped in humor that made her look foolish while he appeared charming. "Natalie is so busy saving the world these days, she barely has time for her husband," he would say with a laugh that his business associates echoed. Or, "My wife thinks running a charity department makes her a CEO. It is adorable, really." Natalie learned to smile through the humiliation, to play her role, but each comment added fuel to the fire of determination burning inside her. She counted the days, calculated the months until she would have enough saved to break free and survive the financial consequences. Grace noticed the change in her friend. They met for coffee one Saturday morning at a small cafe far from both their neighborhoods. Natalie looked different, thinner but stronger somehow. There was steel in her eyes that had not been there 6 months ago. "You are planning something," Grace observed, stirring her latte. "I can tell." Natalie glanced around the cafe, ensuring privacy, before leaning forward. "I am leaving him. Not today, not next week, but I am leaving. I have been saving money. In 6 more months, I will have enough to hire a lawyer and cover the initial costs of breaking the contract." The discovery. Grace reached across the table and squeezed her hand. "Thank God. I have been so worried about you. I just need to be patient a little longer. Ryan could not suspect anything. If he finds out before I'm ready, he could freeze my access to everything, make it impossible to leave." Natalie's voice was steady, betraying none of the fear that lived in her chest. "I have to be smart about this." But fate has a way of accelerating timelines. 2 weeks later, on a Thursday evening, Natalie arrived home to find Ryan in her bedroom, her private space that he never entered. He stood by her dresser, a bank statement in his hand. Her blood turned to ice. "What is this?" Ryan's voice was dangerously calm. He held up the paper, the statement from her secret savings account that had somehow arrived at the house instead of the post office box she had set up. A single administrative error, and her entire plan was exposed. Natalie's mind raced, calculating options, but she knew there was no explanation that would satisfy him. The account balance was clear. She had been saving aggressively, systematically, with obvious purpose. "You have been planning to leave me, Natalie," Ryan continued when she didn't answer. It wasn't a question. "How long, Natalie? How long have you been scheming behind my back?" "Since the day you made it clear I was nothing more than a decoration in your life. Since the moment I realized this marriage was a prison sentence, not a partnership." Ryan's carefully controlled facade cracked.
After everything my family did for you, after we saved your pathetic mother from dying in debt, this is how you repay us? By sneaking around, hoarding money, planning your escape like some kind of criminal? You bought me, Ryan. Let's be honest about what this was. You paid off my family's debts in exchange for a wife who would make you look good in front of your business partners. Well, congratulations. You got exactly what you paid for, but you don't get to own me forever. The slap came without warning. Ryan's hand connected with her cheek, the sound echoing in the bedroom like a gunshot. Natalie stumbled backward, more from shock than force, her hand flying to her burning face. In 14 months of cold indifference, Ryan had never been physically violent. His eyes widened as he realized what he had done, hand still raised as if frozen in time. "Natalie, Don't," she cut him off, her voice shaking but fierce. "Don't apologize. Don't pretend this changes anything except making what comes next easier." She grabbed her phone from the nightstand and walked toward the door. Ryan moved to block her path, but something in her expression made him step aside. She had crossed a threshold, and they both knew it was no going back. Natalie went to the guest bathroom, locked the door, and with trembling hands took photos of her reddening cheek. Then she called the only person she could think of, the only person who had shown her genuine kindness without expecting anything in return. Owen's phone rang at 8:30 p.m. on a Thursday night. He was home, reviewing contracts in his study, when Natalie's name appeared on his screen. They had never spoken outside of work hours. His heart rate spiked as